Whether you're a fan of cruising or a fan of visiting unusual places, I think you're going to like this video. If you like both of those topics like I do, well then you're going to be doubly pleased. Hello travel fans, Jeff here. Thanks for watching Backroads Tourist today. A lot of the places I visit are quirky and fun, but every now and then I visit a location that has a darker, more serious undertone. For instance, in the last few weeks I brought you videos on visiting St. Pierre in Martinique, where a volcano took about 30,000 lives in 1902. I also documented my visit to the monument and cemetery at Wounded Knee in South Dakota. And one of my early videos on this channel was a tour of this house in Villisca, Iowa. Whenever I visit a location like these, I always keep in mind that these are places where people lost their lives, and when I'm making a video, I try to approach the topic with the respect it deserves. When my wife and I went on a Panama Canal cruise, one of the ports we stopped in was Cartagena, Colombia. We had booked an excursion that offered a walking tour of the Old Town area and then some free time for us to explore on our own. We got on the bus, and on our way to the Old Town area, the guide warned us to keep an eye on our possessions and told us that there were a lot of street vendors who could get pretty aggressive. And he was right. As soon as we got off the bus, we were surrounded by people selling water, hats, jewelry, cooking utensils, tablecloths, and several other things. We politely said no and ignored them, and they quickly went off to pester someone else. During our walking tour of Old Town, we were occasionally approached by more street vendors and even a guy who warned us about the cracks in the pavement and upcoming curbs and then expected tips for his services. We've been to a lot of ports in the Caribbean and Central America, and I have to say that Cartagena is among the worst when it comes to aggressive street vendors. After completing the walking tour, we were given about 90 minutes to explore the area on our own. We wanted to go someplace away from the vendors, so we paid a visit to the Palace of the Inquisition. Construction on this building started in 1610, and it was completed 160 years later in 1770. As it was being built, it served as the seat of the Holy Office of the Inquisition in Cartagena. The palace was used by the Inquisition to try non-Catholics, and according to Wikipedia, about 800 people were found guilty of such crimes as black magic, heresy, and blasphemy. They were tortured and publicly executed here. Now, our tour guides said that number was much higher and may have been several thousand people. The Inquisitors were active here until the early 1800s. As you walk around the palace, you'll see a lot of torture devices that were used to extract confessions from people. Most of the descriptions of the items were in Spanish, so I didn't really learn as much as I would have liked to, but I did manage to piece together some of the meaning, like this collection of prohibited books. There were a few signs in English, and we really appreciated that. At least it gave us a general overview of what we were experiencing. I have to say that we were approached by a guy who offered to be our guide at the museum for a price, but he seemed a little bit sketchy, so we politely declined his offer. I did get some footage of this plaque and I translated it. It says, "Her own story is reflected in a woman's face. May our voices not be silenced in time." Evidently, this is a tribute to the many women who died in the Inquisition. One of the last things we did here was go down these steps into a room that I can only imagine was some sort of a holding cell for the accused. I found myself imagining the terror they must have felt and wondering if they knew that once they left this room and climbed those stairs, they'd be subjected to unspeakable torture before finally being executed. There is a second floor to the palace that has various historical artifacts and artwork, but we wanted to give ourselves plenty of time to make it back to the tour meeting point and head back to the ship, so we didn't venture upstairs. We got to the meeting point with plenty of time to spare, and we remembered that our tour guide told us that street vendors weren't allowed to go into shops or restaurants. So we ducked into a restaurant, sat down on the cozy couch, and had a couple of soft drinks. Just outside the restaurant were some pieces of street art that were pretty interesting to look at while we waited for the rest of our group to show up. Then it was back to the port, where we got a very welcome surprise. To get back to your ship, you can walk through Port Oasis. It's a jungle habitat that's home to flocks of parrots, flamingos, peacocks, and lots of other wildlife. And amazingly enough, it's free. They do have places where you can get some food and drinks, as well as a really nice gift shop at the end. After that, it was a short walk back to the ship as we went on to our next adventure. All right, here's my takeaway from the visit to the Palace of the Inquisition. I think I would have gotten more out of it if the descriptions had been in English, or, on the other side of the coin, if I'd been able to read Spanish. If we had gone there on a guided tour, I think we would have learned more that way too, but even with my limited understanding, it was still sobering, and I left there feeling a bit depressed. Fortunately, the interactions with the wildlife at Port Oasis helped to offset those negative feelings. If you appreciate this video, please don't hesitate to give it a like to help get it recommended to others. And if cruising or visiting unusual places interests you, please join us by subscribing to the Backroads Tourist channel. I bring you several videos each week, and if you subscribe, you won't miss out on any of them. Well, thank you very much for watching today. I'm Jeff. I hope to see you on the Backroads or on a future cruise.